Everybody can hear me? Okay, great. Okay, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. This has been a fantastic symposium up to this point, and see from the agenda, we're in the much coveted spot of being right after lunch. So as we head into this holiday weekend, we definitely want to do our best to keep your attention and certainly keep you engaged. So again, welcome to today's panel, which is entitled A Commitment to the DHS Experience. The purpose of today's panel is to spotlight contracting professionals from across the DHS enterprise who have been recognized either individually or as part of a group for their involvement in a DHS procurement. And we have with us here today, extremely happy to have with us here today, Sharon Edwards from FEMA, Jackie Thring from TSA, Tasha Wong from ICE, and Tammy Coe from the U.S. Coast Guard. So all of our panelists today will share their experiences and insights with you. We want this certainly to be a conversation. And so if we have time at the end, we will certainly take questions from the audience, and you can please put your questions in the chat pod. So without further delay, let's hear from our panelists. So panelists, first question for you. If you could please tell the audience about where you work, your contracting background, and why you feel the Homeland Security mission is important. And Sharon, if you don't mind starting things off, we'll go ahead and begin with you.
I moved over to the federal side in 2008, where I worked as a contract specialist for the Marine Corps Systems Command in Quantico, Virginia. Then I came to FEMA in 2011, and I've been here ever since. I now serve as a section chief for the Expeditionary Branch, where I supervise 10 deployable contracting staff whose mission is to support disasters across the United States and its territories. As for the DHS mission, along with the FEMA mission, which is helping people before, during, and after disasters, it's that mission that motivates us, as well as all the contract staff at FEMA, to get up every single day and procure the supplies and services that we do. Why? Because people and businesses and communities are waiting for the supplies and services that we buy. So what we buy directly or indirectly affects their livelihoods. So yes, the DHS mission coupled with the FEMA mission is extremely important to me, and that's why we do what we do.
Thank you, Sharon. Great, thanks for sharing. All right, Jackie, over to you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Thring. I'm a contracting officer with TSA, and I began my contracting career, I think, the same way a lot of us did. I was a baby intern contract specialist. I actually started with the Navy. I worked for Naval Facilities Engineering Command, actually down at Marine Corps Base Quantico, just like Sharon. And that was really a great place for me to start. You know, I was in the field. I really got to see the impact of a contract specialist. You know, I saw how my contracts were, you know, really changing the lives of the Marines that lived on base and their families. So that was just a really great place to jump into the contracting field. So it really only made sense to, you know, kind of move on from working for the Navy to another agency that really had a mission that just resonates with a lot of people. You know, DHS, TSA, TSA's mission is really to protect the nation's transportation systems, to ensure freedom of movement for people and commerce. And, you know, as an American, as a traveler, that's just something I really, you know, just felt comfortable with, and I just really understood. You know, I can walk into an airport today and I can just see the impact that I'm having on everyone's travel experience, including my own. And it's just something that I'm really proud to be a part of.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you for your service. Okay, Tasha, if you can please continue the conversation.
Hi, my name is Tasha Wong, and I've been in contracting with ICE since 2010. I think the DHS mission is important because we, as a team, keep the country safe. And I want to share a story. When I'm walking around town with my ICE shirt on, sometimes people will actually come up to me and say, "Thank you for your service." And I have to explain to them, because I feel obligated to, right, that I just do paperwork. I'm not one of the people that's on the front line risking their lives for the country. But at the same time, I feel proud to be doing that paperwork. I feel proud to be doing something that supports the mission. I feel proud to be part of this community that's keeping the country safe.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, next, let's go all the way to Hawaii. And Tammy.
All right. Hi, my name is Tammy Kao, and I'm a contracting officer with the U.S. Coast Guard Civil Engineering Unit. We handle micro-purchase to multi-million-dollar construction, architect engineering, and environmental contracts from cradle to grave. I work at this little place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that some of you may have heard of called Hawaii. For those of you that have visited our islands before, I'd like to wish you a warm aloha and send you a fond mahalo for visiting our islands. And this is our shaka sign. It's like a Hawaiian wave. Some of you may have seen President Obama doing that because he graduated from high school here in our state. Prior to working for the Coast Guard, I worked for the Navy handling cradle-to-grave supply and service contracts. And like Jackie, I was an acquisition intern. So I also did an extra rotation at NAVFAC as well. The Coast Guard mission includes maritime safety, security, and stewardship. It's a great organization, and I really enjoy working here. We have great leadership, both within our office as well as up our contracting chain. We're big enough to have a lot of resources and a lot of opportunities for growth, but we're also still small enough that we can be agile and find efficient ways of doing things rather than getting caught up in the red tape. Overall, I feel that the Homeland Security mission is very important because this is our homeland, and we should all work together to keep it safe. And I think that is what all of our agencies here at DHS do. So I'm proud to be a part of it with all of you.
Thank you, Tammy. And again, thank you to all of our panelists for the great introductions. Okay, now, as I mentioned earlier, each one of our panelists is a recipient of a recent award, which recognized their contribution and achievement in the field of procurement. So at this point, I want to invite each panelist to describe their involvement and outcome in the project or activity, which led to their selection for an award, whether it was contracting officer of the year or excellence in innovation. And Jackie, to begin this discussion, let's start with you.
Awesome. So this past year, I was honored with receiving the award of the Fiscal Year 21 DHS Contracting Officer of the Year. Such an amazing honor. So I actually served as the contracting officer supporting the Checkpoint Property Screening System, or CPSS. And that's actually the program that supports the procurement of computed tomography systems in the airport. If you're not familiar with computed tomography systems or CT systems, they're actually the systems that scan your luggage that you have to put through before going on the airplane. So it's your carry-on luggage. So it's something that all of us have seen and used before boarding a flight. And it's just really an exciting technology to be a part of. There's so many new developments, and it certainly keeps me on my toes. But yeah, it's a great technology and such an amazing award to receive. I'm just really proud to receive it, and it's a great honor.
Thank you, Jackie. And Jackie, so as we go through the airports, we know who to thank for our screening equipment and all that great technology. So thank you for your service. All right. Hey, Sharon.
Hey, yeah. So unlike the other three ladies, I'm actually representing an actual team award that for the CPO Excellence in Innovation for the work that we did on the national vaccination contract, where we provided medical staffing personnel to assist the states and the territories at mass vaccination sites throughout the country. So this is a requirement that the country was actually waiting on. The requirement was valued at $3.2 billion, and based on our acquisition strategy, we winded up awarding 2 IDIQs with a ceiling value of $1.6 billion each. So I was the lead contracting officer on that requirement, and the team received the award due to the innovation techniques that we used to get the contract awarded in just 79 days. So we used various innovation techniques to include advisory down select. We used confidence ratings. We used oral presentations. We used interview style questions and brief proposal submissions. And we also used on the spot consensus. So this was definitely a team effort. This was uncharted territory. We had never awarded a contract like this before. So at FEMA disasters, we usually wind up awarding contracts for the same type of work. And so this was uncharted territory. We had solicited help from HHS. VA helped us get some of our pricing together. The PO team actually did a lot of work for us. They helped us with the drafting of our solicitation. They also helped with the drafting of, they helped us tighten up our acquisition plan a little bit. They reviewed some of our documents. They did our source selection training for the technical evaluation board. So we had a lot of help on this. And so it was a great honor to receive this award for the team.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. And definitely, given all of the public health challenges since 2020, thank you for your contribution to the mission and to the country. Thank you very much. All right, Tasha.
Well, I received Contract Specialist of the Year for 2021. And my project, well, I was assigned to work on creating a strategically sourced vehicle and SSV for background investigations. Prior to this, both ICE and CBP each had their own contract vehicle, but DHS wanted us to work together and create a vehicle that could be used agency-wide. And to ensure we work together as equal partners, DHS assigned ICE as the contracting lead and CBP as the technical lead. So ICE and CBP worked together to merge their requirements. And then we pulled in the other components and stakeholders to provide input into this new requirement. It was probably the most collaborative project that I have ever worked on in my entire career. We spoke with everyone, every component, the CIO offices, the CSO offices, the PIL, DHS, industry. It was like nothing I had ever done before. And to be honest, it was really fun.
Great. Hey, thank you, Tasha. And in fact, all of us who work at DHS, we can definitely appreciate the importance of those background investigations. So thank you for your work on that project. All right, next, let's hear from Tammy.
All right. I received the Outstanding Contracting Professional of the Year award for the Coast Guard. I worked at a very small office where there are only 2 KOs in our office, and our other KO left to take another job to be closer to her family. So I was left doing both of our jobs for about 2 years. Luckily, our Oakland team stepped in at the end and helped save me, and now I have a wonderful new coworker who is totally worth the wait. But for those 2 years in between, I worked an insane amount of hours, and my bosses just really appreciated the quality of work I did and how I worked with our team to find good solutions for good government contracts. So they put me in for this award, and here I am. In general, I'm just like many of you. I'm just a normal working contracting officer. I don't normally do speeches like this, and so I really hesitate on speaking today. So I'll apologize up front if I misspeak at any time, or if I'm not as a professional as some of the people you may have heard of throughout the symposium. But hopefully we can provide some useful information at some point.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing. And thank you again, as you talked about, honing those contracting officer skills and your commitment to work. So thank you very much. All right, panelists, our next question. You talked a little bit about the awards that you won, but what did the award mean to you personally and professionally? And then how has it influenced your approach on similar or different projects? And for this question, Tammy, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, okay, great. So winning this award was a great honor. There are many great procurement professionals at the Coast Guard, and I just appreciate the opportunity to work with all of them. Winning this award has not really changed my approach. Prior to winning this award, I came into work each day and I tried to do the best job that I could for the government. Since I won this award, I come in each day and I try to do the best job that I can for the government. And I just do what I can.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. All right, Tasha.
Well, for me, I remember telling my contracting officer, who was also my supervisor, that I wasn't sure I deserved the award because that requirement didn't go perfectly. Believe it or not, we made mistakes. I made mistakes. Some of the innovations we tried didn't go as we expected. And I always thought the award went to people that had perfect contracts, people that were models of what a CS or a CO should be. Now I think maybe it's not about being perfect. The message that the award sent to me was that I was being rewarded not for being the perfect CS, because I'm not, or for having done a perfect recompete because it wasn't right, but for having the courage to try, for having the courage to go outside of my comfort zone and reach out to other components and industry and the pill and everybody and their mama for feedback and buy-in. In a way, I feel like I was rewarded for being an ambassador for ICE, because every relationship I created, with every relationship we all create as contracting professionals, we're representing our components. And I have no illusion that the people I talked to a year ago even remember my name, but I strongly believe they remember that I worked for ICE. And I strongly believe that we, our team, left most of them, the vast majority, with a positive impression of ICE.
Thank you, Tasha. And Tasha, you hit on a very key point. Contracting is not about perfection. A lot of times we learn the most when we make mistakes, and then we course correct or we do things differently in the future. So thank you very much for sharing that. Jackie, if you can please help us continue on this along this discussion.
Right. So this award was just really, really special to me because I became the contracting officer for this procurement really at the inception of the CPSS program. I became the contracting officer when I saw all of these new CT systems really kind of going through the initial testing phase and just going through all those trials and tribulations and just making sure the systems were, even good enough to be in our airports and be procured. So it's something that's really special. I've seen all of these initial testing phases happen and then, everything coming to fruition in making the procurement. From a personal perspective, this award and this procurement is just really, really special to me because awards that I was pregnant. So I was definitely a great milestone to hit. And it's just so funny because my husband and I joke that, winning this was TSA's little secret way of pulling me back from maternity leave to make sure I came back, which is hilarious. If that was TSA's little secret, it definitely worked, even though I was coming back, I promise. But yeah, it's just professionally, personally, this has just really hit me very hard. It's very important to me, and it's just been a very special pillar in, my TSA career.
Hey, thank you, Jackie. And Jackie, we're glad you're back. So thank you very much, and congratulations as well. Thank you. All right, Sharon, if you could close us out on this discussion.
Yeah, sure. So what it means to, how is it, I'll start off with how has it influenced the approach on similar different projects. So as I stated earlier, we got the team award for the innovation techniques that we used to get the vaccination contract awarded in just 79 days. So using those innovation techniques is kind of just our normal way of doing business now. So as a section chief, I review acquisition packages, and the CEOs are at least using 1 to 2 techniques in all of their procurements. And I think advisory down select probably is the most popular. But what the award meant to me personally, and I think I speak on behalf of the team when I say that it was an honor for the team to receive this award. And it's always just nice to be recognized for the hard work that went into getting this vaccination contract awarded. As I stated earlier, this was uncharted territory, and I think I don't know if we volunteered or we were voluntold that we were going to do this procurement. But after we saw the price tag of this, got a little nervous, but we focused and we got this awarded because we knew that the country was waiting on it. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. And again, thank you for highlighting a number of procurement innovations, and you certainly leveraged those innovations as part of your procurement. All right, panel, so let's build upon what we've talked about, at least up to this point. Next question, how has this award enabled you to give back to others and or your agency? And for this question, Tammy, let's start with you.
I guess winning this award has gotten me invitations to more things like this, like the Symposium. And I guess my overall message is that if even a little regular working KO like me can win awards like this, so can all of you. Just keep working hard, trying to do your best, work well with your team, and constantly strive to improve.
Hey, thank you for those insights, Tammy. All right, Tasha.
For me, as I kind of hit on earlier, getting the award was a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Because first of all, I didn't find out until the night before the ceremony that I got the award, and I was shocked. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack because I was so shocked to see my name on that publication. And then I thought maybe it's a mistake, right? And I remember checking the publication over and over again, but it kept saying Contract Specialist of the Year, Tasha Wing. And then after the ceremony, when I guess I had reached acceptance or something like that, I ended up feeling this overwhelming sense of appreciation, right? Because I realized it didn't matter how hard I worked. It doesn't matter how hard any of us work if someone doesn't nominate me, right? And I knew there was a lot of people that had to have buy-in for me to be nominated, for me to be one of the nominees from ICE. And that knowledge overwhelmed me. I was overwhelmed with appreciation that these people, these high-level people in ICE and DHS, saw me, Tasha Wong, as Contract Specialist of the Year. So I decided on that day, the day I got the award, that I was going to live up to that title, that I was going to be the best contract specialist I could be, and that I was going to set an example and offer assistance to other contract specialists who might one day get that same award. And so that's how I've tried to give back to the agency.
Hey, outstanding, Tasha. You know, Tasha, you mentioned striving to be better. That's one of the things that definitely signifies excellence. So again, congratulations to you there. Okay, Jackie, if you can continue to help us with this conversation.
So, something that I feel like I've been able to give back to the agency as a result of winning this award is not just sharing my successes, but I think really being able to share my lessons learned. Not every procurement I've been involved in has gone well. I think CPSS overall was a great success, but it certainly had many bumps in the road, and just sharing those with, my fellow contract specialists only allows TSA to grow and learn from experiences and just do better next time. So I think it's really given me a great platform to be open and transparent and just share my experience, good or bad, and we can all just grow from it.
Hey, Jackie, I think you hit it right on the head. Sharing lessons learned, that's something we can all do. And what you've done up to this point certainly has benefited your colleagues. So thank you very much. All right, Sharon.
Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback on what everybody said here. So I think sharing your lessons learned, your experiences with other contracting officers, contracting specialists that are trying to do something very similar to what you're doing, even if it's sharing statements of work, proofreading documents for other staff members, or that those kinds of things can help you give back to your agency. So I think we're all trainers, and so offering up something that maybe somebody else had never done before, or maybe acting as a go-to person would help you to give back to your agency. So that's my mindset.
Hey, thank you, Sharon, and definitely sharing your experiences. Thank you again for emphasizing that point, because in the end, I think a good way to summarize it, we are definitely stronger together. So thank you very much for hitting that point. All right, panelists. Okay, our next question, panelists, there's no right or wrong answer to this question. Okay, again, open-ended question, but in your opinion, what is the single biggest challenge or issue for contracting officers as we navigate the various laws and regulation related to federal procurement? So again, Tammy, if you can kick us off here.
Sure. I think one of the hardest challenges is keeping up with all the constant rule changes. I just try to read them as they come out, and if I run into a situation that I'm unsure of, I try to research it in the FAR and agency regulations. Additionally, I run searches in WIFCON, the We're in Federal Contracting website. Anyone can add their opinion to someone's question on the website, so you do need to double check some of the information there. But there's a lot of really smart people who answer some of the questions, and they leave some really great FAR and GAO references, and you can take a look at those and kind of lead from there and to help you with your procurement. So yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things, and that's my way of approaching it.
Hey, thank you, Tammy, and thank you, Tammy, too, for touching on several great resources for the contracting community. And you hit it. Anybody involved in federal contracting knows change is a constant. So thank you for saying that. All right, let's go to Tasha.
Well, in my opinion, the biggest challenge for contracting officers, at least for me, is maintaining professional relationships. And what I mean by that is when we went to the office, it was easy to maintain relationships and collaborate because we were surrounded by other 1102s. You could almost passively collaborate and maintain a relationship just by showing up to work. But in the virtual environment, I found it hard to maintain those professional relationships. I found it hard to find opportunities to collaborate with other 1102s, and it's so important. I want to learn from other people's successes and failures. I want to be able to maintain relationships, but at the same time, I don't want to bother people. And in a virtual environment, you don't know if you're bothering someone or not because you can't see them. So that's the biggest challenge that I see, is maintaining professional relationships.
Yes, thank you, Tasha. And thank you for talking about the importance of networking, because definitely we need to network. And as we've heard that common theme of collaboration. And then also, too, when we look at this virtual environment, again, there are some challenges. And then at the same time, it's also an opportunity for us to be intentional about engaging in those networks and engaging with others. So thank you very much for that, Tasha. Jackie.
So, one of my biggest challenges is remembering to focus on things that I can control. You know, there's constantly updates on regulations and things like that, and that's certainly not something we can control. A few years ago, I went to an NCMA conference, and one of the side symposiums was really about meditation and stress relief, and clearly that spoke to me. I was very drawn to that, and the presenter actually said something that just has always stuck with me, and that's, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And that's just something that I absolutely love, that because as a contracting officer, I do find myself trying to control things that I just can't control. And when I'm able to focus my energy on things that I can control, I've always been more successful. I mean, Tammy talked about, utilizing WIFCON and just having a look at all the updated regulations on a regular basis. That's certainly something you can control. And just focusing on that has been a huge game changer for me personally. And I always try and use it professionally. Doesn't always work, but I always have to remember, can't control everything, Jackie. Focus on what you can do. And it's just been, onward and upward since then.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, definitely. Focusing on what you can control, definitely a stress reliever. And if you don't take anything else from what Jackie mentioned, ride the wave. So thank you for saying that, Jackie. All right. Next up, certainly last but not least, Sharon.
Yeah, so I would say that the single biggest challenge for me is carving out time for myself to study, to read case law, to keep up with policy, organizing things so you can find them easily. And so I found the best thing to do is to carve out a meeting invite for yourself on your calendar to be able to do some of that. So when you get a procurement, the best thing to do is go and read case law to see what acquisition approach, based on the acquisition approach that you're using, what case law, what protests, and all that. So I find that we're all so busy, and I think every contracting shop is busy. So you have to stay up on your craft. So I think the biggest challenge for me is carving out time for yourself and to educate yourself on policy and law and FAR and all of that. And so I think putting a meeting invite on your calendar is the best way to kind of fix that. So that's it.
Hey, thank you, Sharon. So Sharon, yeah, you definitely, I think we can all relate working in fast-paced environments within the contracting offices. And then you also mentioned too, we are never too busy to learn. So carving out that time so that we can learn and absorb all the information and all the data that comes our way, definitely a key. So absolutely. Thank you very much, Sharon. All right. So panelists, we've come to the last question that I have for you. And if there are any questions in the chat pod, we will go there. But final question, panelists. Again, we've got a large audience joining us here today. But what advice would you give to the many acquisition workforce members and others in the audience who may be aspiring contracting officers or just aspiring professionals in their respective careers? So for this last question, Sharon, if you don't mind starting us off.
Sure. I would say this is not an easy field, but it's very rewarding. I would say it's as Jackie mentioned earlier, it's very nice to go out in the field and see what it is that you're buying and the things that you purchase and procure, supplies, services that you procure. someone's waiting on that. And it's a feeling of satisfaction to know that you help that individual, and they've already kind of lost things or lost everything. So it's very rewarding, and that you've helped that person to be able to kind of pick and piece their lives back together. So it's rewarding in that sense. It's not easy, as I said earlier, but it's very rewarding. So you have to read a lot, you have to study a lot, and the biggest thing that I would say is, if you're coming into this field, don't get stuck buying one thing. The rules change in contracting. You go from buying office supplies to doing construction to buying aircraft to weapon systems. The rules change. So move around between in your agency to start buying different things. It'll broaden your knowledge of actual contracting and all the rules and regulations that go with it.
Hey, thank you, Sharon. Sharon, two things I wanted to pick up on based on your comments. Definitely contracting, for those of us who had an opportunity or the privilege to serve in the contract community, it's definitely a rewarding field. And then also you talked about knowing your craft, understanding just how to do things, understanding the FAR. So again, thank you very much. Those are two very key and important points. Jackie, if you can help us continue on.
I would say that my biggest piece of advice is to remember that every challenge is really a huge opportunity to shine. You know, even those small actions that maybe you don't feel are very meaningful, or, you know, maybe it's just another modification or a task order, it's really a much bigger opportunity than what you think. You know, you have those opportunities to make additional relationships, to grow. I just think a lot of times we can feel like we're getting into a rut. You know, maybe we're doing a bit of grunt work, and I would say make that grunt work look good. I think your team will always recognize when you take a lot of pride in your work, and just being known for that, and really just making sure what you work on, you know, you just take it seriously, and I would just make the most out of every opportunity, no matter how small you may think it is.
Hey, great advice, Jackie. And I guess, you know, again, just to summarize what you said, challenge equals opportunity. So again, some
Exactly.
great advice there. Thank you very much. Tasha, over to you.
Well, my advice to them would be just do it. Just do it. There are so many opportunities for advancement in contracting. And living in Texas, there was a time when most 1102 jobs were capped at GS-12 or GS-13. However, post-COVID, the world has opened up for 1102s. I can work in any office in the US, and therefore my opportunities for advancement are no longer based on where I live, which is Texas. Thank the Lord. It's based on my performance or what I can do. So now is the best time to become a contracting professional, because your opportunities are truly limitless.
Hey, great advice, Tasha. Just do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Tammy, if you can bring us home on this question.
All right. I think contracting is a great job. I love it. It's challenging. You have opportunities to work together with your team and help both businesses and the government. I'll share some of the things that I think help us be successful procurement professionals. For me, it's actually very basic. I try to be honest and upfront with my customers and my contractors and my team. Try to give them reasonable expectations and do everything I can to meet those expectations. I try to be fair and look for win-win solutions whenever possible. As contracting professionals, we have a lot of power, so I try to use that power to obtain a fair deal for the government, while also trying to be fair to my contractors. The contractors talk to each other, and unfair treatment of contractors may get the government a better deal today, but the government will pay the higher price in the next contract and the future contracts after that, because the contractors will be trying to cover the additional costs that they anticipate incurring based on our previous treatment of them. If we treat contractors unfairly, the good contractors are less inclined to want to do business with us, which therefore then gives us higher prices and lower quality work on our future projects. So it's in our best interest to also look at their best interest. In seeking fair solutions, we will not always be able to give everyone everything they want, but I try to find what is most important to each party and try to find a middle ground that works. When I can't give someone what they want, I try to explain why. And if I explain the rules behind my reason for saying no, then they can better understand why I could not give them what they wanted. And maybe they can explain their situation better so that I can help them find a contractual way to obtain what they were looking for. And in general, as much as possible, I always try to find win-win solutions. And sometimes that requires coming up with some creative solutions outside the box. But we do try. I always try to think 2 steps ahead of how my actions today will affect everyone tomorrow. So for instance, when I'm planning a source selection, for each criteria I write, I try to think of the different ways contractors could respond. And then I try to think if that is the information I was looking for. If not, I try to clarify my criteria to make it clear for all and try to obtain information that is the most important to the government so we can select the best contractor for the project. I also try extremely hard to maintain a level playing field for all my competing contractors. For instance, if I see a particular part of an upcoming project would be difficult, I'll specifically point it out to all the contractors. I don't just leave it to chance that someone may pick it up and some may not. This way, they're all bidding on the same thing, and whoever is the winning contractor, they'll be prepared to provide us with the work that we're looking for. I also like to take a lot of notes. In the field of contracting, there are a lot of rules and procedure changes over time, and it's hard to keep up with all of it, as all of us have spoken about today. So I have a Word doc, and then I try and put any notes I have on there whenever I hear a new rule or find something interesting. I add it to my notes. Then if I need that information on a particular topic later, I can run a search in my notes to see what I may have learned about that in the past. And okay, I know you guys are going to find this boring, but I try to read new regulations coming out as well. Yes, it's a little boring sometimes, but it helps us keep up with the latest regulations and make sure that we know what we need to do next. And then when I see something that I didn't know, I'll add it to my notes so that I can find it later. I also skimmed through some of the GAO cases. You can sign up for the daily emails on the GAO website. I'll read the summary. Then if it sounds like something I didn't know, I'll read through the case. And I can learn a lot from seeing how GAO ruled on the case when they explain why they ruled that way. Then when I run into similar situations in the future, I know how GAO will apply the rules in that situation. I also try to think outside of the box. Sometimes at initial glance, it looks like something can't be done. But if you look for other ways to do things, sometimes there is a path to yes. Okay, so when I attend these types of events like this DHS Symposium, one of the things I'm looking for is what can I learn to help make me a better contracting officer? So here's an example of putting some of these things together, and hopefully this information will one day help one of you. Okay, so how many of you have heard of the term late is late in regards to proposals being submitted after this? Okay, this is virtual, so I can't see everyone's hand, but also a lot of you have heard of that before. All right, so say we had an RFP and we received 2 responses prior to solicitation closing. Then a few minutes later, one more contractor runs into the room with their proposal. Here's my proposal. And per the late is late rule, we cannot accept the proposal. Right. However, sometimes we may think that proposal may contain a really great solution for the government, and we really wish we could accept it because, again, we're always trying to do what is best for the government. So I was reading through the GAO cases, and I found GAO decision B299175. And in this case, the government was in a similar situation to what I just described. What they ended up doing was issuing an amendment to extend the proposal due date, even after the original solicitation closing time had already passed. This therefore allowed the contractor that was originally late to still submit his proposal. And the GAO said it was fine as long as we are doing it to enhance competition. FAR 15.206C states, amendments issued after the established time and date for receipt of proposals shall be issued to all offers that have not been eliminated for competition. So the FAR clearly states that it is possible to issue amendments after the date set for receipt of proposals. And FAR 1.102-4E states that if something's not prohibited by the FAR or other regulations, we should consider it permissible and use sound business decisions in the best interest of the government. So I found another GAO case as well, GAO case B221330.2. And in that case, the government issued the amendment to extend the closing time 3 days after the original proposal due dates had already passed, to allow an additional contractor to submit their proposal. And GAO stated that there is no prohibition against issuing an amendment to extend the closing time after the original proposal receipt date had passed in order to accommodate even one more contractor. Extending the closing time to enhance competition is unobjectionable. So all of us are familiar with amendments, but personally, I had not previously thought about using amendments in this way until I read this GAO case. And some of you may have already known this, some of you may have already thought of this, but for others, it's a pretty nifty tool to keep in our procurement toolbox. However, please keep in mind that not everything that we can do, we should do. I just wanted to give you an idea of some things you may need to learn from some of the GAO cases. And if you're thinking about doing something like this, please read through the GAO case and speak with your contracting and legal chain of command to ensure that your plans align with your policy, agency policies and procedures. And I'll mention that GAO case one more time in case anyone wants to write it down and take a look at it. So that's B as in boy, 299175. Sometimes thinking outside the box and following the rules in creative ways allows you to provide a better solution for both the contractors and the government. And again, I love win-win solutions. I'm not sure if I'll get another chance to speak. So before I close, I just want to thank everyone for their time attending this symposium. I hope everyone gained a lot from it. I also want to send a shout out to Carlos Morgan and his team. They did a great job putting this symposium together. You should have seen all the planning they did behind the scenes. It was very impressive. I also want to thank David and my fellow panelists. It has been a real pleasure meeting all of you folks. You folks are a wonderful group of people. And I look forward to seeing all the great things all of you will continue to do in the future. All right, I'll turn it back to David. Sorry it took so long.
No, thank you, Tammy. Wow, a lot of great stuff wrapped up in there. Thank you. I just want to hit on a few of them. We definitely keeping the process fair. We are gatekeepers during the procurement process, getting to yes. The importance of communication, integrity in the process, innovation. Thank you so much, Tammy, for sharing all of those great points with us. We really appreciate it. All right. Okay, so that was our last question, panelists. I'm going to look to the chat pod to see if we have any questions that come in. And if not, we will go ahead and wrap up and give folks some time back. Okay.
And David, if you look in the presenter area, we've placed a couple of questions that we're scrolling by there for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Okay, let's see here. Okay, panelists, we do have one question. What advice do you have for a COR whose experience in contracting is limited because of the size of the office that they work in? So let me repeat that question again, panelists, and whoever wants to answer it, feel free to do so. But again, let me repeat the question. What advice do you have for a COR? Okay, we got a couple things here. Sorry. Technical issue. Okay. What advice do you have for a COR who has limited experience in the office that they're working in? Okay, it's open to anybody. Anybody want to take that question?
I can give a little bit of my perspective. I think something I really love doing is talking with my core pre-award. I think regardless of the size of the office, I think the contracting officer and core really just set up a great relationship. And I think as a core, if you feel like you don't have a lot of experience in contracting, utilizing a contract specialist and a core to your advantage is just a huge resource. I think you can really learn a lot about procurement strategy and why you would set something up as firm fixed price versus T&M. I think really the CS and the CO would be a huge resource for a core that feels like, well, maybe they just don't have that contracting experience. So I would say that would be like the first place I would start.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for that, Jackie. All right, does anybody want to add to what Jackie just mentioned?
I think she summed it up perfectly. Go ahead, Tasha.
I just wanted to add to that core to ask questions. I don't think it's possible to ask too many questions. That's just my personal opinion. But remember, the contracting person is not going to know what you don't know, right? Unless you ask questions. So my advice to that core with limited experience is just ask as many questions as you possibly can until you get the knowledge that you need to perform your job. You can't ask too many questions. That's just my opinion.
Yes, no, well said. Well said. Sorry, Sharon, did you have something else to add?
Well, I just want to piggyback off what Jackie said. I think I want to add the other thing is maybe the core could get involved on the pre-award side, where the acquisition strategy is being developed and where the acquisition plan is being developed, and maybe listen in on the evaluations and that sort of thing, and get involved earlier.
True.
Thank you. Yep, I think you hit it, Sharon. In fact, all of you. Outstanding. All right. Okay, I think we have one final question. My chat box went away, but I think this was the heart of the question. If you have ideas within your contracting office, this is open-ended question for anyone. What's the best way to present those questions to your upper management? Again, anybody, any thoughts on how to do that?
I would say, this is just my opinion, if I have ideas, I start with I'm a firm believer because I'm prior military and chain of command. So before I went to upper management, I would get buy-in from my immediate supervisor, my contracting officer if I'm the contract specialist. But once you have buy-in from your chain of command, it makes it easier to present those ideas to upper management. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Tasha. All right. Anybody else before we? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tammy.
Yeah, okay. I think another interesting place to submit information is DHS sends out these surveys to the procurement community. And so in the last one they sent out earlier this year, they asked, what other ideas you folks have or what opinions you folks have. And I actually answered one of them, and I wrote this long FAR reference and everything. And I explained that, when I worked for the Navy, when I did a severable service crossing fiscal years, I didn't have to go all the way up to my COCO and really high up the chain for every approval for that. And so I wrote it all out and I explained it and I quoted everything and I put it in my DHS survey. And a couple months later, the HSAM was changed. I mean, I don't know if it's because of the survey, if they had already that in the works, but I mean, if you have ideas, they're asking for our opinion. Let's give it to them because they might be able to help us get to where we want. And that's what they're trying to do. DHS is a pretty good place to work.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Tammy. All right. Okay, I don't see any other questions. We'll go ahead and we'll wrap up. First of all, I want to thank all of the panelists. I see some of the comments coming in. They were well received. Again, panelists, thank you for highlighting the several important themes throughout today's conversation. Collaboration, innovation, teamwork, building networks, strengthening connections, commitment to the homeland mission. Again, just thank you for sharing your experiences. Keep doing great things. And thank you for joining us today. And this concludes our commitment to the DHS Experience panel.